Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome back. Finally, all my travel is done and I am here for the foreseeable future, barring weird crap. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Disembodied Beard, John, and Kiki's lying in the other room. She's already decided I'm old hat. Yes, indeedy. Cool, cool. Hey everybody. Why are we talking about Guy Fawkes Day? Oh, did it just happen? Because Maya had pictures of her grandkids in the UK with sparklers. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah, but here we are. We are back. Yes, November 5th. Ugh. Oh, so I'm not at my best, but I'm here. I messed up my neck at the show. Or while traveling, I should say. The bed was terrible in the hotel. Or perhaps the pillows were terrible. Something was terrible. My neck is like, me. But other than that, I'm good. People on my Patreon saw that I posted some pictures, but I'll show you guys real quick. I got to see Kiki's brother. Shani flew him in from Florida. That was Grog in the litter, and he is his actual name is Banyan, and he is a handsome lad. Let me get a photo here. There we go. To make it a little lighter. Doo-doo. So this is Grog. His ears never stood, but he is otherwise a very beautiful boy. But yeah, he's got the sweetest face. And even though his ears never didn't stand, there was a judge who actually did put him up at one of the shows. So, Kiki's brother. I got to hang out. He's very cool. Shani's been doing nose work with him. And then we got, of course, the obligatory cute puppy. There was a cute puppy at the show. There were a couple of cute puppies, actually. Chewing on the water dish, because you do. Let's see here. Oh yeah, and this was my highlight. So there was a breeding that took place with Kiri's great granddaughter, and now she has a great great granddaughter, and that great great granddaughter looks like Kiri. See the mask? She has Kiri's face. She has Kiri's eyebrows, and she's got you can see the muzzle is lightening up, and then the bib is there. So Kiri has a Kiria she has a clone now. In her great great granddaughter Ivy. Oh no, I have no interest in a puppy, Critico. I have no interest in a puppy at all. There was a beautiful smooth girl there. Let me see if I got pictures. I got pictures of Mindy's beautiful smooth girl, but let me see. There she is. You can't really see her very well in the show pic though, as in the dog show. But I love smooth coats, and I cannot lie. And that was Malia. Malia had the best temperament ever. She was just loved everybody at the show. She's 10 months old. So she's got that beautiful gray sable look that I like. So, yep. So we had a show. There were lots. Actually, it was a good turnout, and the judges really liked our dogs. And then I got Kiki. We had a silent auction, so Kiki got a basket of stuff. So that's she hasn't had it yet. I want to give it to her when David's home tonight, because we didn't have a lot of time last night. Yeah, the smoothie coat. The gray sables look very wolfy. Very, very wolfy. Well, my Blazy looked like that, too. So, but yeah, I have no interest in keeping a puppy. The only way I will have another Shiloh probably is if we do breed Kiki, and Kiki produces a smooth coat puppy that I like. I like to travel a little bit too much now. But yeah, and I wouldn't honestly... Bridget is my favorite breeder, and I think nobody does a good job at raising their litters quite as well as Bridget does. So I have very high standards. So it's but I also having been a breeder over a decade ago. It's never as cool as being able to see your dog carry down in the next generations. So keeping one of Kiri's puppies was definitely a right move for me, and I would definitely look at keeping one of Blazy's puppies if it was the right puppy. But we don't want to have a lot of dogs again. Like, I never want to have 4 dogs ever again. Ever. Because I have a lot of, like stress attached to taking care of things. Because I'm always like, it's my responsibility vibe. It's like, I really, really take it seriously. And it's stressful for me if I have too much to take care of. So right now, with the house and the very small yard and the 1 dog and the David and the me, I feel like I have, oh, and the birds, you know, my outdoor pets. I feel like I have enough. So it'll take a very special puppy to convince me to keep her. How about that? It's a lot of work. Yeah, it is. Yeah, too many equals too much stress. And plus, honestly, it's just so rewarding to just have one. It's rewarding to work with Kiki and have a relationship with Kiki, right? Kiki, however, would love for us to have another dog. So we'll see. We'll see. We need to do some basing. So let's do that. Let's, I was going to do kind of a graveyardy type of thing. So let's do some stuff. Move my palette, grab, what do I feel like using today? Let's use something different. Maybe we can go a little reddish with saddle brown. Are you going to be clashy or are you not going to be clashy? We look for nut brown here. Nut brown. Oh, I think nut brown will work great. We'll go with nut brown for our base soil color. And we'll bring it up from there. There. Okay. Yeah, when we had... Yeah. It's me that's trouble to keep going. Yeah, Quindy, I feel it. Oh, but don't say that, Kerniko, because that means that the universe tomorrow will deposit a kitten in front of you in the street. Like don't even invite the universe to do that. The universe will do it. But yeah, like when Kiri had passed before we got Kiki, it's just really nice to be able to just take off for a weekend, right? Agent Marvel, it's just great to just be able to just go. Like, David and I would be able to just jump in the car and go down to Carmel for a weekend, right? To look at art. And we didn't have to worry about getting a dog sitter and all that. So, given now we have a really good dog sitter, but we also have to book him a fair amount in advance. So we'll probably experiment with maybe a secondary dog sitter, but we'll see. We got lucky with CJ. He's an amazing dog sitter. But yeah, so let me get my paint. I need my palette. I was like, I don't need my palette. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm not sculpting again. Most miserable year of your life. Yeah, and it depends, right? It's different for everybody. As some people would be lost without a pet. But I realized that I wasn't. And it was probably partially that I had so many years taking care of 4 big dogs, and toward the end there was a lot of care when they started getting old, and it just really kind of got to be too much on me. So I feel like that was why it was okay. Yeah, they were best friends by the time we came back, Pendrake. That was why we had him walk her. After he gave her a walk, she was always okay with him. I don't need my dog sitter /house sitter to be brilliant friends with my dog. I just need them to follow the protocols and Kiki to be okay with them. But yeah, she had a good time. We got lots of pictures. She really enjoyed playing Frisbee with him. We got videos. He gave us 2 updates a day. So yeah. It went good. I want a bigger brush. I'll just use my basing brush or my mixing brush. Yeah. Yeah, we used to have people that would, we used to have friends in Texas that would, watch our dogs. But obviously when I moved, my infrastructure is no longer present, so. Although one of my CrossFit friends, one of the guys in my CrossFit was like, I would totally take your dog for and take care of them for a week if you want to go away. I'm like, all right, I might take you up on that. But he got shipped out to Canada by his job, so he's not going to be around for us to test that idea out for a while. But yeah, I mean, it's great if you have a friend who can do it, and a lot of people do, and that's the problem with keeping a puppy as well, is, just that. Actually, I'll use my Winsor Newton. the more animals you get, the more work it is, right, for them. So right now, we're in a good place, but we'll see. Bridget and I have got our heads together on finding a boyfriend for Kiki, and I need to get her hips done, but there's no big hurry on that. All right, that's right. I was putting white things in the frame here so that, although it won't be white for very long. That'll be the nice thing about getting this this color down. Now, nut brown is not the most high coverage color, so do you remember like how we add coverage to random colors? My Patreon taught this. We grab a high coverage color and we mix it in, and the closer we can get to that actual color, the better it will be. In this case, I'm going to say actually black and brown. Black and brown has a lot of coverage. You add white, Pendrake, or you add another high coverage pigment or color that is very close. And there are specific colors that do a very good job, which I covered on my Patreon. You had corn flour only if you want to thicken it. Man, that's totally, there are people doing that. No. I just can't. I can't even. So black and brown is a little darker, and it will change our color slightly, but it's also pretty close to nut brown, so it's actually not going to change it very much. So I've laid that color in, and it has shifted my color. But now let's see how it works. So we see it right there. Let's get in focus. And then let's take this next color and put it over the top. Look at how much more coverage we get. Can you see that? The color has shifted just a little, but I'll tell you, not very much. And look at how much more coverage you get just by adding that little bit of black and brown. I can, because people will do anything dumb for clickbait. They will do anything dumb to get clicks. Probably somebody was just like making a joke about it, and they're like, let's do that, we'll get tons of views. You know that's how some of that stuff happens. You just know it. So we're still thinned it, so like we don't have perfect coverage. We definitely have better coverage than we started out with. So I'm going to go brown on this. I want crumbled soil kind of look. And I'm starting dark, but I'll actually work it up pretty light because I want like more dried out soil. Although when I came home last night, it was raining. I got a rainy night, and I got a rainy day the first part of today, although I think the sun's going to come out. But it was pouring during breakfast while I was making my breakfast. I was so happy. I missed rain. Yeah. I mean, pour art is viable art, but it's like, yeah, I can't believe how much material you would waste. But that's why I think they use cheaper paint, don't they? A lot of people I know who do pour art use like craft paint or that kind of grade of paint. They're definitely not using the best paint in the world. You'd go broke. Okay, so we're just gonna base. But yeah, I had a pretty good time at the show. My organization, like, and this is kind of why I'm happy that I stepped back from the board. My org is, the people at the top are prone to just dumping things on me. So, like, I impromptu had to judge a show, and then I impromptu had to do the adult temperament testing. And there was one more thing. And at one point, I just was, like, kind of done. I was just like, yeah, I wasn't prepared for this. Because I'm a person who really wants to know in advance. I hate last-minute crap. I will do it because, you know, I'm needed, essentially. Like, if I say no, who are they going to get? But at the same time, it makes me super mad and grouchy. Because I hate last-minute stuff. And the person in charge of this didn't really have a good excuse for why I got asked at the last minute instead of asked, you know, a week in advance. Yeah, they had a bigger canvas, yep. Oh, nice, Professor. But yeah, other than that, it was great. I got to see my favorite dog friends, and I did hand off my board positions, so Now I need to dump all that crap onto my successor. I'm going to spend 3 years just, as far as the dogs go, just doing less. Though breeding Kiki will be a lot of work when we come to that, but that'll be more than a year from now, so. All right, so I'm not going to worry too much about the white milliput on the outside here. I can try to get my fingernail around and get it. More likely I'll just take some liner or walnut or something and just do a line to catch all that around the outside. I can also take my hobby knife and try to scrape at it. Yeah, we have not gotten rain in a long time, so to come home to rain here in the San Jose area was nice. Very nice. I love my rain. I miss it. All summer we don't get anything, so I can use my knife and just kind of gently take some of that white milliput off. And if I can't, then the option is to paint this black base. I'd rather not. I like this shiny covering, but I can totally paint it and put a gloss sealer on it if I must. If it really is dinged up and I'm really unhappy with it, then that's what I'll do. I wouldn't do that necessarily for a gaming base, or if I did, I would use a spray gloss at that point, because the problem with painting over these black plastic bases is they do tend to scratch and rub off. So I'll try to make it work without that. I'll try to make it work by working with my knife to scrape off those little vestiges of milliput to keep my shiny black surface. All right, so we've got coat 1. We can start on coat 2. And this is coming out. This is a decent color. It actually looks pretty good with the model. Nope. Never found it worthwhile, Pendrake. It's only the fact that I use milliput that has made this an issue. If I was doing this with green stuff, I wouldn't have all this problem. So this is the reason that we just decided to mess around with milliput. That's why I'm paying this price. So I never have to tape a base, because this never happens, because I never use milliput. So yeah, normally if I'm going to be sculpting, if I'm using cork and super glue and white glue and green stuff, as is my normal thing, or even texture paint, or gels or pastes. The pastes could technically get messy enough that I would have to, but I'm usually controlled enough that it doesn't matter. The milliput was just a little goopier than I was expecting, and so I didn't have that. But yeah, I don't feel it necessary to tape a base. I mean, if you were doing it for competition, maybe you'd want to. Certainly, it wouldn't hurt. It's just a pain in the butt on a round. Much easier to tape if you're working with a square base, but then it doesn't look as nice for competition. So, or at least that's my feeling. All right, I'm going to pop a little bit more water into this paint, and I'm going to do a second coat just to make it nice and solid. This is still light enough that we could put a darker wash over it to bring out some of the detail before we start building up highlights and texture. And I've got all my, I want to do some leaves, some dead leaves on this base. I want to do some really sparse brown fall dead grass, like all the grass I just saw in Colorado. It was really warm in Denver. It was actually in the 70s the last day, which is pretty insane for Denver for November. So I brought all these long sleeve shirts, and I was just like, okay, I need some t-shirts, and I don't have them. It's funny. Yeah, most of the time I just don't find taping is necessary. Just my messy milliput. So yeah, I would say Milliput has a very limited usage. I would not. There are putties I would rather, like, if I'm gonna honestly, like, you could mix it with green stuff, but if I'm gonna mix a putty with green stuff for sculpting, it's gonna probably be Fimo, not Milliput. So I think the Milliput will be left for gap filling and maybe some bulk basing if I have to skin over a big piece of cork. Yeah, it would let me do that more cheaply. But yeah, it was ridiculously warm yesterday in Denver. And of course it was funny because we were at fairgrounds, and the first 2 days were the nights were colder and in general things were cooler. But then that last day, once that hit a certain temperature, suddenly there were flies everywhere. Like, it was just an explosion of flies hatching because it had gotten to, like, I don't know, above 70. It's pretty crazy. Alrighty. Maybe we'll do a wash over that. It's not going to bring out a lot. A reason to do a wash over basing material. I mean, it will bring out a little bit of detail, but it won't bring out much. But it also will just kind of solidify. Like, if you feel your color's a little patchy, putting a wash over it can actually help reduce or eliminate that patchiness. So if I want this to feel like a more solid coat without throwing in another coat of nut brown, and I want to have the advantage of bringing out detail, then I'll do a wash. And I probably would use brown liner on that, or walnut. Something very dark, since we're obviously working with a very dark color. It's really not going to bring out as much detail as we might otherwise want. I have all these colors out here. Why? Because I forgot to put things away. That's why. Too much crap out of my plate is making me annoyed. Orange brown, harvest brown. There we go. Excellent. Whew. I feel much better. I mean, you just don't, you put it on in a controlled manner, Pendrake. I guess a lot of people just, like, maybe they just put washes on pretty recklessly, but I'm fairly purposeful about how I apply a wash. There we go. We're doing walnut. Let me grab my sealer. But yeah, the fact that most of this I left a little bit of an indentation, so the wash is gonna, like, catch there, but I also don't feel the need to smother a model in wash, Pendrake. Like, you really don't need to put that much wash on. You just need it to pool. So if you control how much you put on, then you're not going to have problems with the wash running over and drizzling over the base. Even if it does, take a paper, like a Kleenex, and just, like, catch it. I mean, you know I'm pretty purposeful and methodical about most of what I do. I like to paint in a very controlled manner, because I found that it saves me work down the road, right? I found that the more meticulous I was in the early stages of a model, the more work I saved myself in the later stages of the model. So I'm going to put 4 to 2, so 4 drops of sealer, 2 drops of water. Walnut is really strong, and that was a big drop of walnut, so I might need to thin that even a little more. We'll see. So I'm going to let it sit for a second. I'm going to see how it falls off the side of the palette here. It's still really dark, so I'm going to pop another drop of water in it. It was a very big drop of walnut. I was hoping for a smaller one, but that's an older bottle, so over time, as the paint thickens, it will squeeze out more than just one drop at a time. I'm going to pop another drop of sealer in as well. Yeah, it all depends on how you like to paint. I mean, if a lot of people really enjoy painting loose and dirty, and then they take the time to tighten it up afterwards. I tend to be a lot more controlled in the beginning. which is a pro and a con. It just depends on, what you're aiming for. All right, so keeping in mind that the wash will dry lighter than it looks, it's now falling off the side of the palette pretty decently, and it's going to dry lighter than that. I don't want it to be too thin because I do want it to make this a more solid base. So I'm going to pop this back up and grab my brush. I do not have a great brush for putting wash on right here with me. Oh, actually, I lied. The Reaper Zero is a good brush for wash. But yeah, I mean, it's all in what you enjoy. And for me, I like to save that work. I like to start out very, very methodical and controlled. But that impacts spontaneity, right? So if you like a bit more spontaneity in your painting, then you should just go at it. But as you can see, I don't have a ton of wash right here. And I'm going to guide it. Like, I'm going to let it pool. I'll put maybe a blob in here. And it's definitely a loose wash, but I'm also pulling it around. I'm not just putting a blob on and just letting it sit there or pool up too much. I'm pulling it around the model. I don't usually do washes, but on base work I will if I feel like I have cracks I need to fill in and I'm just not too concerned. Because on a base, yes, it's going to cost me a little time to go back over this with my original base color, but not too much. So yeah, I'm using small blobs of wash instead of a huge blob of wash. And when I do use a larger blob, I'm just kind of like poking it in there, guiding it around, pulling it around the model. And if it does actually go over the side of the base, then I can just grab a Kleenex and catch it. It's not going to dry on this shiny plastic right away. That's one advantage of having the shiny plastic base. And it didn't really drool, even though I'm tilting it. It was enough wash to pool, but not enough wash, and not too much wash. And it definitely took it darker. You can see that it did kind of outline some areas. They're still sticking up. Now I can go back in and highlight. Yeah, and that's just the viscosity. A bottle that's slightly older will have evaporated a little bit more. Even though you haven't opened it, it's going to evaporate through the plastic. It's not a non-porous material. So it will very slowly thicken over time. Some of our paints are a little bit thicker out the gate, depending on the base. I'll grab my Da Vinci. So just keep that in mind when you're making a wash. If you've got a big drop, you'll be able to tell it's a big drop, and you'll, based on your experience with the paint, and just look at how it is. Now, if you look at it, you can see how that is quite a bit lighter. But because this was such a dark color I started with, it's not like super evident. Like you can see that there was a wash, but it's pretty subtle. And if I'm going to do a wash, that's actually what I would prefer in most cases. Now I need to mix up some highlights. I'm going to let that dry and grab my palette down here. And we're going to take some of our nut brown, and I'm going to start mixing some more golden colors into it. Maybe some gray. Yo, Roger. So let's grab cloudy gray and do a gray brown. And then let's grab a lighter gold color. Maybe leather brown plus blonde hair. And make that. There. Yeah, thanks, Slayer. I kind of held up bottles against the model to determine what might be a good fit. I'm going to keep my blonde hair out. I want to mix up the gray. Might need more gray in that. Maybe not, though. I'll mix up this. That's a pretty color. Yeah, so I'm kind of going like neutral, more grayed out for this groundwork. And again, I'm trying to kind of use something like at least 4 or 5 drops of paint in here, plus water to keep everything wet in my wet palette, or in my well palette. But of course, it's quite humid out today here, so I am not having to deal with paint drying as fast as it otherwise might. If you were in an arid climate, use more fluid and more paint to keep your paint good for longer. I'm going to put a little bit more nut brown into my nut brown well just to, because I am going to be using that to highlight. So yesterday, Bridget and I got to the airport like way early for our flight, so we actually spent 3 hours talking. And she was like, do not start Baldur's Gate 3. Do not start it. Do not buy it. Not if you really want to finish 2 novels this winter. She's totally addicted to Baldur's Gate 3. It sounds like a great game, but I agree. It's like if you want to be productive, don't start it. So I'm just not gonna. Alrighty, so that's our color selection. So we're definitely, remember we are working with a muted palette. So I did mute all of these. The color we started with, the nut brown, is already a muted brown. And then adding the gray and the gold gives us a selection of colors to make, essentially to vary our groundwork. So today is kind of my catch-up day. I'm going to be putting up, for those who are my patrons, expect a post later today, just a general, hey, I've been out of town, so stuff is going to be a little bit late at the beginning of the month, but I should catch up quick. So I'm going to use a little bit of my my regular nut brown. I'm going to stipple a lot on these. And the first layer of nut brown is not going to show up like super well. You can kind of see it coming up a little bit here. I got one of the cool things at the show this weekend was that my friend Shani, who owns Kiki's brother Banyan, did a demo on starting with nose work, so essentially scent discrimination and scent finding, which is a fun, cool game you can play with your dog. And I had a book about it that I was like all excited about, but the book made it very, I don't like, as you guys all can guess, right? I don't like books that make things too complicated. And this definitely, like, it's great because it gives a lot of the theory behind why you train it the way you do, but it also was making it way overcomplicated, wasn't it, Keeks? Way overcomplicated. But then Shani got up and she was like, no, this is very simple. Yeah, and so now Kiki and I can start to do scent work. Do you want to come up and say hi? Come on up and say hi. You're just licking me. You're being a good, respectful girl and not jumping up on my lap, huh? She's just sitting here licking me. She's so silly. Hey, Daffod Weir, thank you for that resub. 49 months. Lovely. I've got a little Kiki here, and she's being such a good girl. Hi, Keeks. What a good girl, Keeks. What a good girl. You miss your mama? She fell over, like, when I came through the door last night, she made up for ignoring me when we came back from Hawaii. Didn't you? When she gets very excited when one of us come home, she turns in circles so fast she falls over. I got fall over dog 9 times last night before she finally calmed down. Hi there. Yeah, I'm home. I'm home, Kiki. Yeah, oh, the pettins. The pettins will continue until morale improves. Hi. Yeah, I love you too. I'm getting the lean. I got a leany dog down here. She's being a sweet girl this morning. Do you miss me? Do you miss me? Yeah, we're going to start doing some cool training. We're going to start doing some cool training. Yeah. Yeah, good girl. Good girl, Keeks. Yeah, okay. Oh, I do have a Kiki. I thought she was going to leave, and instead she's like, hi, Mom. I'm going to take over the stream. I want to take over the stream. Hope you don't mind. Hope you don't mind. So Kiki says hi, everybody. Yeah, Kiki says hi. Yeah, is he good? Yeah, hi there, sweet girl. Hi. Good girl. Yeah. You're earless. You're an earless wonder right now. Yes, I love you too. Okay, you are. Good girl. Good girl. Well, it's not time yet, okay? So go settle. There we go. Now we've had our Kiki of the day. She just took a while. But yeah, so I'm excited because I I have scent work stuff, and now I know how to put it into practice. So Kiki and I can start playing Find It. Can start playing Find It, which is exciting. And that's something she could get like titles in. There are nosework organizations that run trials. So eventually, maybe we'll try that out. But first, we have to do the starting stages, which are super easy. And the other cool thing at the National was we had a behaviorist, a trainer, come in to talk about ways to essentially make your dog more resilient in stressful situations. It was a great talk. I took tons of notes. And there were games involved in that as well. So I have all sorts of new games to play with Kiki. I'm excited. And one of the games, I'll actually tell you guys about it because it's fun. And interesting because they've done studies on like dogs' nervous system responses that show that this particular game actually has a measurable effect on calming your dog down. So if you are interested, it is called the up-down game, and it is exactly as easy as you might consider it. So these are all called pattern games, I think, is the overall arching term for them, but it's essentially terms that help with your dog focusing on you and less on the environment, and just generally like returning to normal from a stressful response and stuff like that. So the up-down game is you drop a treat on the ground, and your dog gets the treat. And then if and when your dog looks up at you, you click and you give them another treat, or you drop another treat on the ground. Sorry. So essentially you're making them move their head up and down, right? So they're going after the treat, and then the next time they look up at you, you drop another treat. And again, and again. And so the interesting thing is that scientists have found that with neural response, the act of moving the head up and down with a dog actually has a physiologically calming effect on your dog. Like measurably. So playing the up-down game at first at home, and then, then out maybe in your driveway, and then, at the park, and then, then eventually the idea is to get it to a point where the up-down game will help your dog in stressful situations like traveling or the vet. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to kind of use this grayed out mixture. I want to kind of start patterning up. You can see it. Some of this area, bringing up the details. I'm mostly stippling, but sometimes I'll use a straight stroke if I'm going around an edge. And I'm going to be covering some of this ground with grasses and stuff, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time picking out details, but I do want the details to start coming out, as you can see. So yeah, up-down game just sounds like fun, and I'm going to be starting that with Keeks, because she does stress out a lot at the vet. So if I can get her used to playing this game. And the idea of pattern games too, which is interesting animal psychology, is animals like things to be predictable, especially dogs. But this works with some other animal types too. So the more predictable the environment is, the less that the animal stresses. And with the up-down game, that essentially is it adds predictability to the environment. So if they're in a stressful situation where they otherwise can't predict what's going to go on, but you start playing the up-down game, you essentially are giving them something familiar and predictable in the middle of a disruptive environment. So that's why it helps. So we're just bringing up these colors here. Now, one thing that washes can do, and you're seeing it here, is they can add a little bit of sheen. And that was probably that I didn't shake up my brush-on sealer for as long as I should have. So I can counter that, if I want to, by creating after this is over, taking my brush-on sealer and then taking some anti-shine additive, putting a tiny bit of anti-shine additive in that, and then doing it. Yeah, with the up-down game, it's definitely a predictability thing. I mean, it does distract them from the environment, but it also gives them, it's weird because it gives them agency. Because they know if they raise their head and look at you that you're going to give them a treat. So it's a choice that they can make. It's like, it's all that kind of thing. It's all kind of weird. It's dog psychology. But like because they can do something to affect their environment in that game, it actually helps them be more relaxed in the environment, and they know what's going to happen. So it's a combo of those things. But yeah, especially if you have a dog that's a little reactive or really sensitive to the environment, doing that kind of game can really help the dog to not crazy laser focus on bad stuff or perceived to be bad stuff. Yeah, and that's the same kind of thing, right, Korniko? You add an element of predictability to an unpredictable situation and something that's familiar, and then your cats are able to relax more, right? So yeah, it's totally a thing. That's smart. Alrighty, so I'm taking some of my walnut and I'm adding that in to kind of deepen my shadows and make things stand out a little bit more. I had a donut yesterday. Bridget, after we talked for 3 hours and had a very healthy supper, she dragged me to Voodoo Donuts because there's a Voodoo Donuts in Denver Airport. And I've always kind of like glanced up at it and gone, I really don't need to go up there and investigate what that is, but so yesterday I had a donut. They had monstrous apple fritters. They had bigger apple fritters than I have ever seen. An apple fritter that would essentially fill a paper plate. It was an immense apple fritter. And if it was anything near as good as the Portland cream donut that I got, then it was probably a very good apple fritter. Just painting over some of that stuff. I really like apple fritters, but I need to go. I actually was very good. It's funny, I was not good in Hawaii, but then we were planning on not being good in Hawaii. But I didn't gain any weight on the dog show vacation. I actually was smart. I brought my own breakfast and brought my own lunch, or went to the store and got food for lunch, and so I was eating on diet, and I was good. There wasn't a lot of junk food. All right, so yeah, I'm just taking the walnut. I'm going back in the opposite direction. I'm going and applying that more into the shadows to bring down some of these areas. Sorry, Professor. You know that there's food on this stream. You know. Yeah, solid food. No solid food for a week is rough. Do you have your wisdom teeth out? Is that why? Or I guess if you had any intensive surgery stuff, they'd want you to liquid diet. So yeah, just like essentially going back, you can see how I've got kind of a mottled texture now. I'm going to reintroduce a little bit of that over here. A little bit of irregularity. I'm also taking this and taking the walnut and putting it a little bit over some of the shinier areas, which is causing them to not be so shiny. Yeah, because egg foo young is just fritters, right? Egg fritters. I love egg foo young. Oh, denture's done. 12 days ago. Yeah. Well, hopefully you can eat soon, right? If they're checking you out today, they maybe give you the all go and you can get yourself some decent lunch. Or dinner, depending on where you are. I'm going to go around to the back and do the same thing. I'm going to get in some of this. Peach fritters seem like a no-brainer. Pear fritters would be weird just because pears are so mild and the texture is different. But I bet peach fritters are a thing. I bet if you Google it, it's there. I bet the southern states are like, what do you mean apple fritters? Why bother? Peach fritters. They like peaches in the South. But yeah, I mean, there are peach cobblers, so why not peach fritters? Hey, lady. You can't wait. You have a list of things you want to eat. Yeah, good. Work your way through it. Yeah, poached pears, but I don't think they would necessarily work in a fritter. Just because the flavor is mild. And usually you want a punchier flavor in a fritter. So just getting in here and darkening this down. Now I'm going to bring this area up. I tried to make a pear smoothie and it did not work, and I threw it out, and I decided not to do pear smoothies anymore. You need a very ripe pear to do it, and I'm terrible at spotting good pears. David said I probably just grabbed, because I mean, I used all the directions on how to pick out a good pear, but it was still very grainy, and it did not work well in a smoothie. David said I probably just got them just a little bit out of season. It was a little bit too early when I bought my pear. He likes pears. Yeah, easy to overpower, exactly. So I'm using our gray color with the gray added into the nut brown. Bring up some of this stuff. Bring up some highlights. Yeah, I figured there had to be peach fritters. They had to be a thing. They're so obvious. It's so obvious. It had to be a thing. Speaking of things, I need to figure out what I'm making tonight. Back into the grind, right? After almost 2 weeks of not having to like cook, not having to worry about what's for supper, I am now back in worry about what's for supper land. Maybe I'll make some curry. I think tonight it might be steak because it's so easy. I'll have to go to the store and see what the steak looks like. Okay. So I've got some gray. I've got all this. If I want, some of this is having a hard time marrying together because, again, of the wash, and the wash being a little glossy. I think I'm going to do a glaze over this to try to take down that gloss. I'm going to do it with the original color, the nut brown, because I want to marry together some of this highlight colors, which are more opaque, and the underlying color. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my nut brown and put it over here. Build a glaze with it. Yeah, I was just, when I was experimenting with smoothies this summer, I was just like, I'll try it. And I tried it, and I was just like, nope. So this is a thicker glaze here. Although, as you see, as it falls off the side, it becomes more transparent. I could add a little more water to this if I really wanted it to not be a big thing. I am going to grab just a little bit. When dealing with the anti-shine additive, it's really a paste, so it works better if you just pop the top off. And I need a little bit of a brush to grab some of it. This one needs more water added for sure. That's the thing, is the anti-shine additive will dry out. So I need a water thing, and I need to drop more water into mine. And usually I have to stir it up a little bit too. But it does evaporate. It is pretty easy to get. It's not a paint, so it is easy to get back in solution, relatively speaking. Although you have to work it a bit if it's gotten to be a real plug. Once I've got like a bit of it on my brush, I'm just going to put a little tiny bit on the side of there. I'm not even all of it. I just want to make sure that this glaze is matte to take down that shine. And I'll have to stir this up afterwards. But for now, this is good. Okay, I'm going to integrate in that. And it got pretty transparent on the side, you can see. So we're just going to go with this. With the glaze, we want to go over the territory. You either want to flood it and then pull it off, or you want to just go over the territory with a thin, quick layer. I'm going to chance using my mixing brush for this. Just because it's big and can cover the ground. It still has a little bit of a tip, so I can guide it. We're just going to pop it over the top of all this stuff. So you can just do a thin, fast layer. If you do see it pooling, you got to pull it off. Although it's less important with this model because this glaze is so similar in color to everything else. Even if it dries weird, I won't really notice it. I have to go to the store before I get lunch. That's going to be fraught with peril. Unless I decide to go not have a salad and to just do something else for vegetable. So as you can see, look how matte that's made it. That's that extra flattener. And that was just a tiny bit. I didn't even use near as much as was on my brush. I just put a tiny bit of it in there, and it really has dulled it down. I'll wait for this part to dry. But I'll go back in, and now I'm going to work with my blonde color a bit. I usually use kimchi, though we do have some pickled carrots that I've been known to do. I really love kimchi. I was so happy in Hawaii because when we went to the grocery store, they had an entire section of the refrigerated section that was all like kimchis. All different kinds, different brands. And we bought a local fresh one, and it was so good. But yeah, if I need and my kimchi is Napa cabbage kimchi, so it's got carrots, cabbage in it. So we've got that bit of that stippling effect. If I feel like I go too far, I can bring in that original nut brown and stipple that in as well to kind of like blend it in a little bit. I love kimchi. Yeah, I really have gotten into kimchi out here. It sucks because then when I go visit my parents and I'm like, go to the grocery store and pick up a couple of the things that I eat that they never would. But it's always either the Midwest or Arizona, and I can never find kimchi. But California and Hawaii, boy, yeah, you can find kimchi. My mom didn't even know what it was. But there are definitely times living out here in the Bay Area that I am super thrilled that we have a very multi-ethnic population because we get the coolest like foods in the supermarket. And that's without going to like an actual dedicated like Indian grocery store or Asian grocery store, which I try to avoid going to those because, oh my God, they'll destroy my food budget. I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. Ooh, that looks cool. Oh, let's try this. Oh, I had to take those electrolyte drinks when I was in Denver too. It had been a while since I had been at altitude for more than just stopping through that airport. And I definitely was getting headaches and had to do the electrolyte drink mixes. Ended up running to the grocery store to pick up some. I took a few packets home with me because I thought they'd be good for after CrossFit. Especially in the winter when I don't necessarily want a smoothie. When it's cold out. Some stippling again. Just bringing out some of these nice details. You can see how that glaze has unified stuff but still allowed me to bring out some of this detail, and then we'll be adding our grasses and stuff. Yeah, we can't do Costco for much. It's just too much. David and I don't actually eat too much food. Like, all things considered, our meal sizes tend to be smaller. He's just really good at that, and he's gotten me into it, and of course it helps with my diet. So it's really kind of useless for us to get big packages of a lot of stuff. I do go there for smoked salmon, and sometimes I'll go there, like, they have cheap tri-tip and some other stuff. But my Costco runs are definitely not my normal run. I go there for toilet paper and stuff like that because we have enough storage to do big packages of paper towels and things like that, but I can't do much unless I can freeze it, unless I get something that's very freezable for the meat. I can't really do that. And we don't eat carbs. Like, we don't eat like prepackaged a lot of stuff. I don't. So I don't even go down the aisles. It's like I go back to the meat section, and then I go for, like, the paper products. And otherwise, I don't even go down the aisles in Costco. Oh, and the clothes always get me. Comfy and cheap is a combo it's hard for me to resist. Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Ah, the fruits are great there, huh? It is not busy here. If I go in the morning, Kuroniko, I can totally, like, bypass the line here for Costco. Maybe we're just lucky. We have our little Mountain View Costco, or our little Palo Alto Costco. It definitely gets busy when you'd expect, like on the weekends and the evenings. But in the mornings, you can sneak by and not really have to deal with a lot of stuff. Right, exactly, Age of Marvel. Yeah, that's kind of... Costco works for us just because of, like, the toilet paper, paper towels, dish detergent. All that stuff is actually... It saves us enough money, and we buy it often enough that it makes it worth it for us for the Costco membership. But we definitely have, like, the cheapest Costco membership. We don't need more than that. And I do buy meat there. It's just I have to buy stuff that's freezable. I bought Korean short ribs there before to make into kalbi. It's just a little going around, highlighting stuff. Now we can also just take our gray, and instead of doing various shades of brown, I can add some grays in here for the stone. Oh yeah, if there's only 2 in Scotland, I can see. Yeah, I still delivery groceries sometimes for specific things that I can get from Amazon Fresh that are either more expensive or just really hard to find out otherwise. So I'm putting down some cloudy gray. I'm getting some water in it. I don't want the full strength. I just want to add some gray tones, layer some gray tones up on some of these rocky areas. So this is like taking your time on a base. Like, I'm going to just kind of layer in some gray. just in some areas. And putting a few different colors in your basing and varying it up a little bit can help just make your base look more interesting and natural. So I can glaze this gray over this stone here and over this one. Change the color a little bit. And if I want to really go up from there, I probably want to grab, where is my cairnstone? Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have sushi at our Costco. I think because everybody just gets their sushi elsewhere. I've never seen sushi at our Costco. Plus, I wouldn't be able to eat it all before it was done. I'm going to grab some cairnstone so that I can add some more highlights. I'm going to probably drop a little bit of my gray into that. So again, now just starting to mix up our colors, make them more versatile. So we've got that yellowy color there. We've got now our gray. We're going to have our cairnstone. I'll start adding some little embellishments with those colors that are totally different from our ground, starting ground color, so that we can get a little variance. I always do the grocery runs, but I go to our local little specialty grocery store, Piazza's. It's like a tiny Whole Foods. And it's just down the street. And they have the best, like, they have the best produce in our entire city, I think. Like, it's always good. It's always fresh. It's always just top notch. So I always go there for vegetables. They have a good sushi counter, too. And a great meat and fish counter, although it's not cheap. I do miss my Sprouts that I used to have around here because they had inexpensive steak. I was like, and it was good, but they definitely were marking it down a little bit more than these other places. But it closed, that Sprouts, and I don't want to drive all the way to Sunnydale. And we have a Safeway less than a block down the street from us, so it's very super easy to jump over when I have a hole in my day. There we go. So we got some gray now. I'm going to highlight that gray with a little bit of cairnstone. It is very much an off-white, so I have to watch it. Can get really strong really fast. I just want to hit the edges of these stones a little bit so I can get a little bit more variance. Oh, ours give delivery charges unless you order like a crap ton out here. I think because everybody otherwise would order, since they scaled down their grocery delivery after all the hullabaloo. I think in order to get like free delivery on from some of these stores, I need to order well over $100. Oh, funny, Kerniko. So I'm bringing in my walnut again. This is more futzing than I usually do on a base, but I will do this much futzing. I would do this much futzing if it was for Dark Sword. Just trying to make it more interesting. visually before I add all the grass. And once I add the grass, I'm going to be covering up some of this stuff. So like that's why it doesn't pay to add too much time into this. But it'll make it just look a little nicer. But yeah, if you got grocery delivery with no delivery charge, that's really good, Pendrake. Yeah, I decided to stone out the rest of this, so we got some gray rocks. Although we've still got a fair amount of brown in them. I was planning on being productive today, and then I realized that I needed to get my brain out of that mode and just do a reset day, because I mean the house is kind of a mess, you know. Like I have to get my brain back in the game because I haven't been doing any. I haven't been on, like, when you're self-employed, it's like I feel like I need to go into a day very focused, right? Knowing what I'm going to be working on. I have prepped it, you know, the night before, and then I can be really productive and get a lot done. So we're adding in some gray tones back here. Yeah, I got to see Kiri's brother, Richard, and play with puppies, and had a dog behavior seminar and a scent work, training Kiki in scent work. I have a lot of new games to play with Kiki, and I bid on a basket for her in the silent auction, so she's going to get some new toys tonight. That'll be exciting. She'll be super happy. So we're just getting some of those gray tones in here. These are like I sculpted them more like bigger rocks, so. It's not really how I do Pendrake. I need like 1 day to reset, and then I hit it for like 4 or 5 days after a trip. I very much, I'm a deep work kind of person, so I have to block out my day in pretty big blocks and just absorb myself to get the best results. It helps when you like figure out the best way to work, because, you know, like everybody's brain is going to be a little different. So for me, if it's a day of fixing small stuff, like I've dedicated the entire day to fixing small stuff. Today is more like just a reset, assess, make my to-do lists, figure out what my week looks like, and then I hit it really hard for the rest of the week. Because I'm definitely a planner and a strategizer as far as the most efficient way to do stuff. Fridge, I would say. Otherwise, you're just going to get water all over your counter. Although I'd still put a paper towel under it in the fridge. Let's see here. I'm not using too much of the cairnstone because it is so light. I also could thin it a little bit more. I don't eat crackers anymore. I used to be a cracker fiend. But I managed to break that habit on keto. And it has not come back. Oh, going back to the getting sneezed on. I decided I'm not going back on keto, but I am going to cut myself down to super low carb now that I'm finally now traveling. So I'm going to go in just a tiny bit above keto. And I'm using a lot of stippling stroke on this, guys, just to give these, I sculpted these stones pretty smooth. So giving them stippling makes them look a little bit more irregular. I used to be a cracker fiend. I was a real snacker. I still am somewhat a snacker, but not nearly as bad. Like, definitely if you stick me on a plane for hours, I've got to heavy resist the snacking urge. But yeah, crackers used to be my favorite things. Any crackers, doesn't matter. Probably Cornico. Sounds like time to go mad. Gonna get some of this, some of the browns back in a little bit. Sometimes just glazing. I think we've almost got a decently interesting setup here, so. Alrighty. So you've got more stone on the front. Got a lot of patterning. Pretty decent. I feel like I've lost some of my darks, so I'm going to pop some darks in and then I'm going to put grass on this sucker. Grass and leaves. Oh, we're almost Silver Tongue, not really. I mean, Bob Ross is really good at suggesting shapes with simple forms. Probably the best thing to pull from Bob Ross is to just keep it chill and to work with what you've got. I think that probably if I did ever pull anything from Bob Ross, it was the technique of just making random brushstrokes and then working with what you've done. Like if you need to randomize a pattern on something, because every mistake is every mistake is just a happy accident, right? It's you can make it into something. So I'll do that on purpose. I'll like paint messy and then I'll look for the patterns in what I've painted and then I'll double down on those patterns and make them into something. But in many cases, I think that the strength of Bob Ross relies a lot on simplifying shapes, which is valuable for any art form, but also on I mean, you can learn a lot about color mixing from him. Like as far as just what pigments he's pulling together, like you could always use those recipes, especially if you're using Chimera color. Like something that mimics tube paint. So I'm just bringing in some of my darks again because But Bob Ross, I feel, is fun to watch just because, like, it's like magic. Because he just knows, he's done so many paintings with those subject matters that he knows, like, how an oversimplified stroke will actually create the illusion of what he's trying to convey. I think that's harder to do in miniatures because you're working as a collaboration with the sculptor. So you don't have a blank canvas. Not impossible. I'm sure there are models you could use that on. Yeah, I mean, I'm it's not so much a happy accident if I'm painting something, although sometimes if it's a textured surface, then happy accidents are common, and I try to like work with them. Obviously, on other surfaces, not so much. But I mean that the attitude of not being hard on yourself when you make a mistake is definitely valuable. And like I said, if you're working with Chimera, then Bob's mixing method is what you want to be using. You want to be adding white to base colors. You want to be mixing on the fly to get a complexity of color and tone and shade and highlight. You could pen rake. You'd have to. Well, yeah, you could do it in 20. I mean, he didn't work that big. Like he went 24 by 36, I think, 24 by 40. So 24 by 18, it would very much be usable. It's just as you get smaller, you have to use smaller palette knives if you're going to do his stuff, and smaller brushes. You need to shrink it down. You're still building like a surety. Like the challenge of painting like Bob isn't the size, it's the fact that he just has done it for so long that he makes it look easy. And he just does a brush stroke that's going to suggest, a tree. He does a palette knife whip that is going to, emulate a Rocky Mountainside, right? Because he's done it so many times before that it's just natural to him. And that's not natural to us. So it will actually take effort and concentration from us to mimic a Bob painting. Yeah, but doing work on applying miniature painting stuff to smaller canvases. I mean, not Jessica Rich is doing that. Although she's doing watercolor, so it is different. But I mean, a lot of her like control and probably like the way she works probably carries over from the way we paint. But yeah, painting on, I wouldn't count it 18 by 24 as a miniature canvas though. A lot of people, the miniature painting club as far as canvas painting, I think is usually much smaller. So reintroducing some of my darks here. That's cool, Butts. Yeah, that's good practice. Magic card alteration. It's a good 2D practice. You have something to work from. And if you're good at it, there's money to be made. Well, I don't know how much, but there are people out there doing it. But it could just be fun, too. And it would let you practice. Actually, doing magic card alteration would also be great practice for just brush control. Oh, bye, Crowley. I'm going to add a shadow walnut underneath here. Just a deep shadow there. Alright, I think I'm going to start doing some grass on this. Because it's time. It's time to do some grass on this. Where is my dead grass? Got my basing materials sitting over here all in a nice little bin. Nope, that's too green, too white. There we go. This is the color I want. That. Technically, they call them Highland Tufts. Well, I was definitely just in the Coloradan Highlands, and that was the color of the grass, so. Yeah, magic card modification is, I would say, very good brush control. Also pretty good for paint thinning because, obviously, if you want it to, you can't use very thick paint or it's really going to be evident. You have to have it blend in to the card if you're doing alterations, so you want to use thinner paint. But yeah, could be fun. Could be fun. So this grass is pretty bushy and pretty big. So I need to keep that in mind as I'm pulling it off of the card here. It's pretty big stuff. A little tuft of grass. Get off of me. There. Okay, tuft number 1. We're going to be breaking these tufts up and trimming them a bit to make them look less like tuft mania when we put them on here. I think I don't want much though. And you can use a knife to take these off of the plastic, but you can also just use your fingers. This is a very simple basing solution. Okay. So I can see the adhesive on the bottom of this. You can kind of see that shiny space there. There we go. Now I have 2 tufts, which are much smaller and easier to control. You always want to look where the adhesive coating is and cut that in half or into sections. And then, before I even put this on, I'm going to grab it. Do I have a tweezers over here? I have something similar. Tweezers would be better. But I want to trim down some of this grass. I kind of want to do it in little snips because I don't want it to be like too regular. So if you see it get really regular, you can kind of come down and spread apart those little fibers. But that's a little better. Usually I prefer to use Zap-A-Gap, but the only super glue I have right now, because I need to replace my Zap-A-Gap, is a Loctite Ultra Gel. So we'll see what we can do. I want to tuck some grass into nooks and crannies. So I'm going to just put a little bit of the gel super glue in there. And I mean, the gel will hold it in place technically a little bit better. It'll stick it in there. I'm going to pick up my little forceps here. Oop, missed that. Stick it in there. I'm going to use the point here to kind of grab it and push it over into that glue. Oop. Oh, now it wants to fight me. Come on now. It wants to stick to the tool. There. Let me use a different tool. If that happens, when in doubt, stick it with your hobby knife. And I'm scrunching it into that, really scrunching it, and that is also going to deform the tuft to make it look less like a tuft. And we're going to add another one here, and we're going to change it a little bit here. Let's actually trim it more than we did the first one. Just going to hold it, trim it way down. No, you really need to trim grass tufts down. In many cases, a lot of them are really large. And you do want to make them look a little bit different. You don't want to make it look like you gave them a straight up haircut. But if you do see them get too regular, doing the whole smushing them down into the glue thing does help. I use my knife a lot of the time instead of tweezers, because if I poke it with my knife, I can pick it up and essentially push it right in there. Except when it gets caught on something else, because it is staticky. Splook. There, that looks pretty good. And I don't mind like static grass. It's just don't put like tuft. Try to be methodical about where you're putting it. Makes sense. Make sure you're putting it into like crevices, places where grass would naturally grow. I think I probably have room for another little one over here. And then the last thing I'm going to do is to highlight this grass. I do not believe in using static grass unpainted. There, now I made 3 little tiny tufts out of that. Little tiny tufts. And I want to trim these guys down quite a bit. So you can put a wash over the entire static grass. Although that will dampen it down, it will be a lot less springy and it'll tend to glob together. So instead, start with a darker static grass in the first place and highlight it with dry brushing. All right. So I'm going to continue my little line of grasses coming out of this. Coming out of this little rocky area where soil would come in. I'm going to use a full strength taller tuft over here. Smoosh it in there. Grab these little guys. They were trimmed, so they're going to be a little smaller. And I'm just going to smush them around a bit into that glue, because I can make the strands kind of separate, go different directions. And we've got a fair amount of variance as far as close grass and tall grass. It's much harder to trim it once it's on the model, but if you must do it, just try to use the tips of your scissors and get the strands that you need. There we go. I don't think I have. Let me see. I do. I was going to say I usually use a flat brush for this. If I'm going to do a bit of dry brushing on terrain, I'm going to use my angled. And it's much bigger than I need, but I'm just going to use the tip of it. Yes, that's a good one too. That's what I did actually with one of these. I'm going to grab my blonde hair. It's a really good color to use to highlight when you want a kind of crunchy tan grass. And it's much lighter than the static grass. The other thing that dry brushing the static grass does is it removes the shine. See how it's picking up that? There we go. So though I start out with a darker static grass, I always know that I'm going to be highlighting it, making it look bushy and dead. This brings out all the strands, it kills the shine, and it also makes the grass look more like it belongs on a miniature, because then everything is painted. You can see how those kind of like look translucent and they don't look necessarily like that one does. So I usually do at least a couple of layers of light dry brushing on my static grass. I'll start out with a fairly light color, and then I sometimes will go up to an off-white. Depending, if I want a color, I'll start with that color and then go up to a lighter version of that color. And this makes it look crispy and dry and dead, and fall, autumn, autumnal. Brings out the different strands. Let me get, I'll use Cairn Stone here since I've got it, and maybe get a little bit of a lighter color. Although I have thinned my Cairn Stone a bit, so I need to be careful. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. Where is my, did I put it back? Yes. And I usually just grab colors for this that I'm already using on the basing or the mini. So it's not like Using a color that you're already using somewhere on the basing or the model helps make the static grass fit in to the rest of your color scheme. So yeah, this is definitely an off-white as far as the cairn stone, so I'm going to go a lot less. Just a little bit. But that gives it a couple of different colors, which makes it look more real. Now we can see the dark that we started with, and then some of that more golden color, and then the edges are more like frosted. That's like what we want. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of places. Static grass tuft maker. Yeah. I have loose static grass and I have tufts. I just tend to reach for the tufts if I need to do something that's small. The big stuff makes more sense on a big base where I can do a carpet of grass. Where's my glue lid? Oh, there it is. So I think we're pretty good. I might throw some leaves on her. The little birch pods, you guys know the ones. I have a whole thing of them, but I just pull some of them out of here. So those little maple leafy kind of things. That one looks pretty. Let's grab that one. One of those, and I like this guy too. One of those, and one more. Want to go in threes if you can. And the nice thing about these, of course, is that, they can be painted after you stick them on. Those guys. You can also get one of those great leaf punches from Green Stuff World, which gives you different kinds of leaves, which is, they're cool. They're just a little more flimsy than these guys. These guys are really stiff, and I like that sometimes. And again, I'd be using these, I'd be using my knife to pick these up and plop them on a base. So let's put one here. Look. And let's put one down here. Look. I remember when people first started using these and it was like a revolution. Like everybody wanted to put tons of leaves on bases. So I get just a little bit of a leaf under there. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it does, because you've got the paint, right? And the paint has a particular finish, and it's also, when you bring in something from outside, Richard, it's out of scale. There's going to be some element on it that's out of scale. I can just pick these guys up most of the time on the tip of my knife and puncture them a little bit and put them where I need them. And then we'll do one way over here, or maybe one up by her foot. One up by her foot sounds good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could do it on a cloak, I mean, right? But yeah, for a while, these were just all the rage. I remember the golden, that was 2003 Golden Demons, when people were using them all over the place. We'll put one right under the foot and the pumpkin. So just a few little leaves to make her more autumnal. And once those are dry, I can just touch them up with a little bit of like orange and yellow or red, depending on what color of autumn leaves you want. If you want them brown, usually it will hit them with like driftwood brown. These guys are a really good color to look in scale, but I still like to touch them up just a little bit. So there we have a witchy base with tufts and stuff. In the back, I'm going to leave just rocky. So there we go, everybody. We finished our witchy. Yay! Yay! So sweet. So I am going to put together an order a lineup since we still have extra models. Like 2 extra models. We'd have to go to an 8 model lineup. I don't really want to do that, so I'm just gonna figure out. Probably I'll pick a variety of almost done and more fresh minis, because we've got 3 that are almost done, maybe 4. I guess two that are really almost done, and then you've got 2 more that are in close. So we'll be refiguring out our rotation. And I'll let you know, Quinny. I'll take a picture and send it to you, Quinny, of the lineup. Literally. Yep. Oh, yeah, we have a lot of them here. They used to, like, fall into the swimming pool at our old apartment complex, Richard Bennett, because there was a tree right next to it. It was funny. I would, like, be in the hot tub, and I'd come out, and I'd have tiny little miniatures leaves all over me. It's funny. But yeah, so I really like her. She's definitely not a usual, like, witch. If I had to choose, guys, I think I'd probably do these leaves with just touches of like, glaze some red and orange onto them. And the red and orange I would use would be the mahogany brown that we used on her hair, and probably the orange brown that we were using on the pumpkins. And that would pull those colors down and integrate them into the basing. So that's what I would do. And what I probably will do at some point. But not right today. So yeah, so there we are, and we'll be back on rotation tomorrow, and I'll figure out who I want it to be. Boom. Yes. Thanks, Sturgeon. Yeah, glad to be back. Really want to get on National Novel Writing Month. It's time. It's Nano. I'm wearing my Nano t-shirt today, the one for this year that I ordered, so it's time. All right, you guys have a great day, and you'll just have to tune in tomorrow to figure out what we're working on. I'm not going to spoiler it. Yep, yeah, Kiki just moved. Kiki heard me saying goodbye, and I heard her collar jingling out there. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to be back, and we're going to just keep going now. I got no breaks. Yeah, Silvertongue, come on. Yeah, have a great day. Quick, formulate a novel and go. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.